Well, probably a two-part video tonight, for those of you who are still tuned in and are listening. I'm just trying to get a few things out there in order to sort of counteract the mainstream media perception out there. So in terms of this entire budget proposal by Paul Ryan, I think first of all, you need to remember that Paul Ryan was appointed to the Deficit Commission, commissioned by Obama. That means, this entire commission was created to somehow deal with the national deficit. And this entire commission was also populated by industry insiders, CEOs, and there were just a few people, very definitely not in the majority, of standing up for consumer rights, workers' rights, or whatever. Well, Paul Ryan wasn't one of them, but he was a very prominent member of that commission. Now, you may have heard of Alan Simpson and so on. Well, it all dovetails here. So, Paul Ryan was actually nominated by Speaker of the House, John Boehner, whatever his name is, Boner, I guess. So, if you actually look at this man's voting record, okay, Paul Ryan. Now, he's been in Congress for quite a number of years. He was a representative in Wisconsin for, I think, since 1998. You can look up his voting record on Project Vote Smart, which I actually did. And his initial agenda was actually to privatize Social Security. Now, he moved away from that because it was politically, at that time, during that period in 1998, a bit too politically dangerous for him to do so. But that really was his agenda. Now, to his credit, he did say that the Social Security Fund should be completely divorced from the general budget. In other words, it shouldn't be borrowed against. So that was the one thing that Ryan actually supported, which I can support as well. But then he looked further into his voting record, and he votes basically for every defense appropriations bill that comes along. He votes against big government, but then he votes against he votes for the control of big government in terms of women's rights and civil rights and all this stuff. And so his perspective is not something you can't simply dismiss, because it has, very definitely an ideological basis. And that's basically what some of us are trying to address on here. What he's trying to say is that everybody is better off fending for themselves rather than living in a larger community which cares for others when, they're down in the dumps. And that's precisely what this Ryan proposal, budget proposal, does. It hurts predominantly it hurts the very poor, the very desperate, the disabled, and it tries to privatize Medicare. And the entire idea, and I've realized that there is a funding problem with Medicare, okay? Unlike Social Security, that's a different story. But with Medicare, that is a problem, and it can be addressed in numerous ways. And Obama, unfortunately, didn't address it because he took the single payer option and public option for health care completely off the table to start with. So if you want to reduce the cost of medical care without those provisions, it's not going to happen, because the AMA lobby and the private industry lobby in the insurance industry is simply too powerful, to bring anything about that might help the disabled or seniors. In other words, all this proposal does is throw seniors and the disabled under the bus, basically. They can go fend for themselves, they can get some vouchers, Yes, the proposal does mean that the current retirees, 55 years and older, 56 years and older or so, they can still collect their Medicare. But come 2022, they won't be able to do so. They'll be giving vouchers. Well, medical costs keep increasing, mind you. And then they'll basically have to pay roughly about 68% of their own medical costs out of pocket. Okay? That's according to the General Accounting Office, the CBO. So, even if Ryan was even remotely genuine about this, it's not going to do anything to help people in this country. All it's going to do is drive down the lowest common denominator to the rock bottom. And once that happens, and this is why the proposal is being put off to, towards 2022, people are going to realize, and especially the younger generation, because then they're also getting older, that they're being entirely screwed. They may not realize it now because they think, look, this is all a big waste of money, and I don't want to spend my money if it's just going to be wasted. And this is the whole mindset being brought about, that basically everybody should just fend for themselves. It's kind of like, early 19th century thinking. And this very sleek and charming person in the form of Paul Ryan. And you should see him, you should hear him talk. He's very personable, he's very amicable in his personal demeanor and so on. So, basically he's charming people into voting for their own demise. It's a very clever approach. Basically the same kind of approach that our current president is using right now, because he dovetails with all of that. It's one thing, to come up with a totally extreme proposal such as Paul Ryan's, and then for Obama to once again say, well, we're all going to be bipartisan here. We're not, in his rhetorical speech, of course, he won't say that. But what he did say in his speech is we all have to work together. Everything is on the table. Everything is on the table, including Paul Ryan's proposal. Well, yeah, of course, Paul Ryan's proposal is on the table now because Obama himself and his own administration and the Democratic Party leadership is moving further and further to the right of the political spectrum. And don't tell me there isn't a difference between the right and the left. There actually is in terms of philosophy. But you wouldn't know that here in the United States by a long shot anymore. Because everything has moved so far to the right that we don't even know where the center is anymore. We're being told that basically the position of somebody like Orly Thais, whatever her name is, this birther woman, is something reasonable to even discuss. Then Donald Trump with his comb over, some egomaniac jumps on the bandwagon because, he wants to have a little more power. His real estate investments, even though they failed, basically, at some point owning a fucking casino, and this guy failed in his enterprise, okay? I guess he just wants to feed his ego and feed the ego of others. I mean, how much more idiotic can it get when even now conservative, so-called conservative Republicans fall for somebody as obviously deluded as that. But as I said before, you know, politics is nothing else than a game show now. So yeah, so you're all involved in it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be involved in it anymore at all, because I don't really see that politics or our political system can be changed, that all of this corruption can be changed from within anymore. And doing it from without will take years. So I'd rather it take years than trying to keep propping up a completely corrupt system in which, you know, you experience a death by 1,000 cuts instead of it just blowing it up in your face, which in the end is all going to happen if this continues. So I guess on to part 2, the foreign policy thing, in the next segment of this video.